Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Get in the Herd After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Bond. Get in the Herd is a recovery podcast brought to you by the McShin Foundation. I myself am a recovery coach trainer, and house leader at the McShin Foundation, among other things. But more importantly, I am a person in sustained recovery from substance use disorder, which means that since September 23rd, 2019, I have not found the need to put any mood or mind-altering substances in my body, and have found a new sense of purpose in my community and have found my identity again. I'm here with Laurie and Tina. How are we doing, ladies?
Very good.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Very happy to have you on. Laurie, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yep, my name's Laurie MacDougall. I am the executive director of an organization called REST, Resources, Education, and Support Together. It's an educational group for families and friends of loved ones with substance use disorder. I'm also the co-chair of the Rhode Island Governor's Overdose Task Force.
Awesome. And Tina, great to have you on. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tina Fratus, and I've been an advocate for about 6 years. I've done a little bit of everything, and right now I'm working as the assistant to Laurie at REST, and working. I want to be a facilitator for craft meetings, so that's what we're going to be working on.
Wonderful. Laurie, can you explain to everyone what craft means and exactly kind of what REST does, maybe their or your curriculum and process methodology, that sort of stuff?
Sure. So REST is we're an educational group for families, and we are all about getting educated about all things substance use disorder. So we also have a ton of connections to local and national resources for loved ones with substance use disorder. But our main purpose is to get family members and friends educated in a very specific methodology called CRAFT, Community Reinforcement and Family Training, which was created by Dr. Bob Myers out of the University of New Mexico. It's the only methodology created for families. It's widely studied. And how I discovered craft personally was I found this website, Allies in Recovery. And Allies in Recovery has actually 8 different modules. They have an e-learning platform with videos and activities that come along with the videos, and it's based in craft methodology. So once I found that website and started implementing it in my own home with my loved one, my son, I had also been attending lots of other groups out there. So Nar-Anon, Al-Anon, Codependence Anonymous, and I thank God they're there because they saved me. But there was a piece that I wanted that I thought should be added to some of these groups, and that's how REST got created. Really, is I decided to combine this idea of education, the craft curriculum that's on the Allies in Recovery website, and I'm a former high school math teacher, so I'm all about getting educated. Nice. And thought I'm going to offer a different kind of group to families that that are struggling with this issue. And the craft methodology is really a structure for families to learn new coping strategies, new skills, and it's all about taking care of themselves, but also influencing and being able to direct their loved ones into, I don't want to say recovery, I want to say into a better way of life, right? It gives your loved one more opportunity to be successful in whatever it is that they're finding for themselves.
Mm-hmm. To maybe inspire hope in their family members and that sort of thing.
It does, but also, I mean, it's
behavior modification, I'd call.
Well, some of it is, but it's all about how do you communicate, how do you interact, how do you separate the person from the illness, right? How do you, but still stay connected? And I would honestly say that I'm very familiar with the peer model, the peer recovery model. Craft is like the peer recovery model for families. And It's applying the peer recovery model for families so that families can then approach their loved one on a more strength-based,
healthy basis.
Yeah, healthy, positive. What do you want? How can I help you with what you are looking for, right? Difficult to describe, but it's very positive, very non-judgmental. And it really allows the family to also bring their own. So the families often bring their own kind of emotional baggage and trauma to the table as well. And so the craft method allows for that and is very helping to the family to understand what their loved one is going through at the same time.
No, that's good. I was about to ask that because from my experience and speaking with people on the show specifically and people outside of this, say your Al-Anons and your Nar-Anons, a lot of that stuff is very emotional based, and it's a lot of helping me and you internally, but it may not have that education piece where I'm actually learning why my addict is the addict the way that he or she is. It's kind of more like, how do I fit in the puzzle piece more than it is education. Has that been your experience? Tina, do you go to Al-Anon and that sort of stuff?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no. I've never been to, I went into recovery 25 years ago from cocaine. And I did it on my own because back then a lot of times you were doing it on your own. So I did, and lucky enough I stayed away from it. So I don't know too much about them, honestly. But I know what other people have told me, and some people just can't get past the certain way that they want them to be. There's you can't always fit the round peg in the square, shape. So. As soon as I went on to Allies in Recovery and I started with her with REST and I started going through the modules, I said to myself immediately, I wish I had this when my boys are in their 30s now. And I so wish I had it when back in the early 20s and the late teens, and what I could have probably helped them through a lot better. The house was in chaos. We fought and fought and fought, and that got nowhere. That actually just made things worse. So when I started looking into rest and what she was talking about, and it was just so interesting to me, and it's like a no-brainer, but you're so used to, you got stuff down your throat that they have to hit rock bottom and they have to do it like that. And, you know, that's what was in my head. And that doesn't have to be like that at all.
No, that brings up a really good point because, you know, some of this stuff is a no-brainer. And Laurie, you might be able to help me out with this because I have not been in your class but I know from certain people, you know, family of addicts have said, you know, the piece of where you have to let them do them, and maybe it's counterintuitive to want to help but can't or don't or you actually shouldn't, because a lot of times it is very intuitive to a mother to want to do everything that they can for their son or daughter, especially when they're struggling, but that could actually end up having an adverse effect to the addict. Laurie, is that kind of part of the model a little bit? Is that true or is that a myth?
Yes, it is, and it isn't. It's actually both. So it depends on what we're talking about. Doing things for the person with substance use disorder, oftentimes like, you know, giving out money or, you know, rescuing them from situations.
Bailing me out of jail.
Bailing me out of jail. It does, and those things may make it worse, right? It can make it worse, but also there are things that you can do, right? You can say, hey, you know what? I know you messed up a little bit and you're going to have to face that, but I'm still here for you. Right. And, you know, or, you know what? I just don't have the money right now. I love you very much. And I wish I could give it to you, but I don't have it. So can I help in another way? You know, there's just, there are things that you can do. And this is one of the things that I do like to tell families. And I'll tell you this, Al-Anon and Nar-Anon tell you what to do. So I think that CRAFT and the Allies in Recovery website and all of this, they marry very well with Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, because Al-Anon and Nar-Anon will tell you what to do. They tell you how to take care of yourself. And that is a huge piece of this. But CRAFT gives you the skills, right? CRAFT tells you the skills that you can use. It gives you something tangible, if that makes sense. And so, yes, it's very much, it's learning what's healthy boundaries, right? What's a healthy boundary and how do I hold to it, right? And how do I stay connected and not use my boundary as a punishment?
Yeah, that healthy boundary piece is not easy to do. I've been exercising with coachees. Like, I never realized how many unhealthy boundaries I had until I did this exercise that I was doing one day. And you know, realizing that maybe my problem is maintaining my boundaries compared to like, a lot of people don't communicate their boundaries and just saying, don't cross this line. It's just supposed to be understood and mutually respected by all people, when that's not how it works, especially for people suffering with our disorder.
Well, and I'll also tell you this, we as family members don't listen or pay attention to our loved ones' boundaries, right? We don't, when our loved ones are saying, you know, you're trying to control me, you're getting into my life and I don't want you to, we have a tendency to dive in deeper versus backing away and listening to those boundaries. So me as a family member, I had to learn my loved ones setting up a boundary for me. That's their boundary. And if I want them to respect my boundary, I have to respect theirs first, right? It really comes down to me. So yeah, the healthy boundaries piece is, it's a tough topic.
It is. It very much is. Tina, I'd love to know your history and how you got involved. It sounds like you've been in the recovery circuit, I think you said, for 25 years now. How did you get involved in rest?
Well, I'm actually advocating for 6 years, not the whole 25, because I
Oh,
was,
that's awesome.
yeah, I was busy fighting with my teenagers. It was a friend of mine had lost his son, and it was somebody that I had known from when I was a little kid. Last time I'd seen him is junior high, and this is 30 years later, and I saw him giving eulogy at his son's eulogy, and he was just breaking down, and he was one of the first people to actually mention what was going on in the eulogy and in the obituary. And so that just kind of crushed me, and I got in touch with him, and at that point he had said, I said, what can we do? And he said, just make awareness. He said, we have to make awareness. And that's what I've been doing. But
No,
now I found something else that I'm really happy about.
yeah, because that then leads into kind of a question that I've been thinking, Laurie, is advocating a part of this process? Because I feel like, at least for me personally, if I'm not sharing what's been shared with me, it's just inherently selfish, which is bad for my recovery too. So if I'm holding on to all this information and, harnessing it and just like hoarding it to myself, then it feels very selfish to me. Is that kind of part of your program as well? I know I'm kind of just asking, is this exactly like recovery is, in a few different ways, but I feel like advocating would be a very, important piece in this craft and rest methodology.
I do think that yes, advocating is a huge piece of it. We don't have any expectations of other family members or members that come into the group. They can participate in whatever level they are most comfortable with.
Sure.
But for me, it's a huge piece. It happens to be one of the things that we were just recently discussing about how, distress tolerance and what are some things that we can do to raise our tolerance of stress. And one of the major pieces for me is doing for others. And this for me is that craft was, it changed my life. It changed how my total approach to my son. It changed everything. And I would say my son's now December 19th. He'll be in recovery for 5 years. And I don't believe that craft is what put him in recovery. His recovery is completely all his work and all his doing. I really strongly believe that. What I do believe that I was able to do is I was able to create an environment where he was more likely to be successful. And it wasn't easy. It was a long, hard, and it's still not easy.
It's continuous for sure.
It's continuous. It's ongoing. It is not a straight line. It's more like a big squiggly line. But now I just have something inside of me that I want families to know that there is hope and that there are things you can do. There are things. You do not have to totally disconnect from your loved one. And I think for the most part, families are desperately looking for answers and solutions. It's just that right now, or what they've been trying hasn't been working. And craft offers some solutions that has some good, strong success, right? So inviting people in, would you like to give it a try? This may be something you've never looked at before. And why don't you come on in and learn how to set some good, healthy boundaries, learn how to communicate with your loved one in a way that you're not pushing them up against the wall and, you're banging heads all the time. And
it's going to lead to more communication instead of.
Yeah, communication, I think, is actually the biggest foundation of craft, right? It's this communication piece, but then there's 2 other pieces that are also really, really important, which is rewarding positive behavior, but removing rewards during negative behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so really reinforcing positive behavior, but then not engaging with the negative behavior, not as a punishment. So those are like the 3 foundational pieces. And really, really gives you a lot of creative, strategic ways on how to implement it.
That's cool. Tina, did you, I assume working for them that you did some of these meetings and classes, right?
What, the craft class?
Yes, ma'am.
I've gone to her meetings and watched her meetings. Yes.
Okay, great. I was curious what your personal, as well as maybe professional, biggest takeaway from it was.
When you
maybe like your number one, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was missing this moment.
It's just you come out with more hope. It's when you're explained the way it is, it makes sense to you. And when you say, I had used this without even knowing that I did use it with my boys. And I probably should have kept using it, but I didn't even know it was a thing back then. So I didn't know if I was doing something right or something wrong. And looking back, when I was calm and I wasn't yelling at them, that's when the most got done. That's when the most communication happened. That's when they were able to sink a little bit more into their minds. That's what you need. You're not going to have a relationship if you can't get past that. So you got to, and that's what I came out of there with was there's a lot of hope for families out there. They just need a little guidance. That's all.
No, that's awesome. I mean, we've been talking about this educational piece for a while now, and it's really cool to actually see something that is productive in educating these families, because it's consistently like, all right, harm reduction, education, and awareness when it comes to the preventive measures. And it's good to actually see something so productive and working that 2 people are very passionate about. Now, just as a bit of like a curveball, honestly. So I know a lot of people here at the McShin Foundation who are from Maine and come down with Operation Hope and or say a Waterville program where they essentially turn themselves in and they say, look, I've got a substance problem. I don't know what to do. And you can pretty much pick an RCO, a recovery community organization, to go to, and they will like foot the bill for a month to go to, like, say, the 28-day program here at McShin. And I've heard it's because there is not a lot of stuff like this up in Maine, and was just curious if, the recovery community is as volatile as my head pictures it is in New England up there, because I have some friends and family who've dabbled in and out of it, but to my knowledge, it is pretty hard, or it's far and few in between.
Difficult because there's a lot of rural areas in Maine.
Sure.
So yeah, they don't get the attention that the inner cities and stuff get, but they do have just as many problems.
Sure.
It is sad up there. I know there's a lot of I'm trying to think of the name of there's a harm reductionist group up there that they were doing well for a while, and I think something happened and they had to split up. But yeah, I feel bad for the ones that live, out of the range of getting good help,
But there are these types of services in Rhode Island, right?
Oh yeah, no, there's a robust recovery community and programs in Massachusetts, in Connecticut, and in Rhode Island. And I can tell you, Connecticut has CCAR, and the recovery community is really up and running.
What's CCAR, if you don't mind explaining what that is?
Oh gosh, of course you'd ask. CCAR is, let me think, Connecticut something.
Community for Addiction Recovery?
Yeah, I think that's it.
I just Googled it real quick. I'm no smarter than anyone else.
Yeah, no, I
So
think
there's a
that,
Recovery Coach Academy. No, and
yes,
that's exactly what I'm asking is I have this
yeah,
picture of all of New England in my head because these people from
no,
Connecticut, New Hampshire, and Maine come down here. So I'm like, what's going on up there?
no, Connecticut has a relatively robust uh, recovery community. Rhode Island has a very robust recovery community. We've got RICARES. We've got 2 Hope Recovery Centers in the southern part of the state and in Newport. We've got Anchor Recovery, which I don't know if you've heard of that, but Anchor Recovery, Serenity Recovery, the East Bay Recovery Center in Bristol. So no, we have a strong, robust recovery community in Rhode Island. And actually, Rhode Island has a lot of like model programs. So they have like they have a fantastic program in the prison system where they introduced medically assisted recovery. And in fact, it was piloted in, because Rhode Island is so small, they only have the one prison system. So they were able to pilot this program in the prison system and had unbelievable success. It's something like 64% reduction.
Weren't they the first ones too
I believe it.
to help the to expunge the expungement?
Oh yeah, that's
they do all the expungements.
Yeah, they do have help for expungement, but they also
like those of people with felonies for substance.
Yep, they have help
like possession.
Yep, they also have so they have PARI-like programs. So they have the Hope Initiative, which is run by the state police. It was started by Captain Matt Moynihan, and then they also now they're starting to get a lot of local police on board with the state police in the Hope Initiative. And they also have the Providence Safe Stations. So you can go into any one of the fire departments in Providence. And remember, Rhode Island's small, so getting to Providence is not you can live on the other side of the state, and getting to Providence isn't going to take too long. But you can do the same type of thing. You can drop in at any one of the fire departments and ask for help, and they will call in a peer recovery, actually 2 peer recovery coaches, and try and get you the services that you need. As well as they have something called BH Link, which is it's a triage system. So it's a telephone crisis hotline for mental health and substance use disorder, but it's also a physical building. So if you go there and you're in crisis, it's also a way to kind of circumvent the emergency room and not have to the emergency room.
I have to wait in the waiting room for 2 hours when I'm having a mental breakdown or something. Right.
They'll hold you. They try to give you a bed for like 23 hours. And all the while they bring in recovery services, and they bring in recovery coaches, and they try to get you to whatever level of treatment that you need. So no, Rhode Island is really, really in the forefront and pushing for.
It seems like it.
They are with mental health too. Rhode Island's great as far as pushing things for mental health too.
Oh,
yeah, because those two do go completely hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the BH Link number crossing the screen on the banner as we speak.
Look at that.
Yeah.
There you go, Todd. Yeah, that BH Link number is 401-414-LINK. That's 401-414-5465 to those listening.
Very cool.
So just to kind of like keep the momentum, this is great because it dispels like a lot of preconceptions and preconceived notions and myths that like I have in my head, which I'm generally confident that other people watching might have, especially when it comes to location. Like I love talking and learning about how the recovery community works geographically different, because we talk a lot about how there is no one size fits all model when it comes to recovery throughout the nation, which is why I think it's really cool that your program in Rhode Island seems as successful as it is. Now, just out of complete curiosity, is it generally moms that you deal with more than fathers? Is it also siblings? I mean, what's kind of like the demographic of people that you might deal with?
Moms, lots and lots of moms. Yeah, it is. I do have some dads, but they're few and far between. So typically it is moms. Sometimes it's, I do have a lot of husbands and wives that will come, or
like couples. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Siblings almost never. And you know, that's a huge issue.
That's very telling.
Huh?
I think that's very telling. It feels like there's some sort of disconnect. Maybe that's like a new age thing where it's like, not to jump in and try to theorize and bloviate or whatever, but I think that generational gaps are even shorter nowadays with the proliferation of technology. I feel like a generation was generally like 10 to 15 years, and nowadays it's like 5 years. So there's a major disconnect between siblings, which could result in maybe let them do them.
Yeah, and there's also, there's also this issue of mom and dad trying to make decisions based on what they know, and siblings being angry and hurt that mom and dad are being affected so negatively. Also feelings of neglect, right?
Sure.
Why do I have to put up with this because of that? But to be honest with you, I don't see this as any different as any other illness with siblings. Like, I think that happens across the board when there's a chronic illness in the family.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's crazy, but
is that your experience too, Tina? That you haven't dealt with a lot of siblings, or
it's almost like.
Do you see that with maybe your sons at the same time, even though they're kind of dealing with their own thing?
Well, when they were younger and they were going through it,
sure.
It was almost like, I can't get into their heads of what they were thinking, but it was almost like one of them, it was almost going to ruin it for them. You know what I mean? It's very hard for me because I didn't have siblings growing up. So it's very hard for me to get into their heads. But I definitely see what you're saying. And it was a little bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, especially, a lot of, and it goes both ways, of course, but I know that, like, I am very egotistical and selfish as part of my disease. So when my sibling, specifically my brother, is a very successful, well-rounded person, and I'm kind of like the screw up, it's like, I need more help, and I feel like you're always on my back at the same time. It's like I can never be happy because I'm either being pressured too much or not getting enough attention. Right. Like it's this weird bounce back and forth.
Rivalry to begin with, in the relationship. Never mind one that's going through stuff. One
that has a chemical imbalance and substance use disorder sprinkled on top of it, and shoved inside as well. So just to like switch gears a little bit, what, Laurie, are your opinions on the Portugal model? So if you could kind of explain that to people a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay. I mean, the Portugal model is basically all about offering treatment on demand. Mm-hmm. It's about reclassifying all substances, so that we're not criminalizing people that use substances. So that I know it sounds crazy. Why would we want to reclassify and not put people in jail? Is so that the stigma is reduced. Mm-hmm. And people might be more open to receiving services and to asking for help. Mm-hmm. And so Portugal did this thing where they reclassified all substances. And let me make it clear, it's not, they did not they did not legalize all substances. They just reclassified them so that, and then they created like these dissuasion panels. So if there was a problem or a repeat pattern, you would go before a dissuasion panel and they would offer you different levels of services. And with the idea that when you're ready, you're going to ask for it, or you're going to say, yes, you know what, I do. I think I have a problem. And basically what they did was they started treating substance use like an illness, and they started treating it, like at the primary care level. So the primary care might be screening someone for substance use disorder and be able to talk openly with them about it and be able to refer them to different types of services that might work for them. And in order to have it be this healthcare issue, they had to reclassify substances, and the thing about it is it worked fantastic. The numbers just show that they had something like, I want to say 400 overdoses in 1 year, and by like the next year or
34.
within 2 years, it dropped down
34.
to 34. 34.
Because you know what too is they over there with the medicated assisted treatment, there's no voodoo about it over there. People get it, and it's not like over here where half of this country thinks that it's replacing one drug with another drug. Over there, they can freely take the help without feeling like they're doing something,
And maybe just a sidebar just popped into my head, is that part of your curriculum as well? I hope that's the proper word. Curriculum is dispelling a lot of the stigma, especially attached to MAT.
Yes. It's so I'm trying very hard not to push people. I don't want to push people in that,
MAT is the only way. Yeah.
I don't want to do that, but I want to get people educated in it so that they understand it, and then they can make better
choices. Yeah.
I don't even know if it's better choices is the word that I'm looking for, but
it's an informed decision, I think.
Right. Or be more open to supporting your loved one. I'm a firm believer that how my loved one might do on medically assisted recovery could be very dependent on my attitude towards it too. So, my supporting him and driving him to his appointments and, and sitting there waiting for him while he's in the clinic versus me spending all this time saying, oh, what are you getting on that for? What do you?
Oh, no, that's a very fair point. And during all of these, phone calls, setting up an appointment, driving to the appointment, waiting in the office are more opportunities for them to share why they're doing what they're doing and their experience and everything. That's a very fair point.
And maybe he has a better opportunity of being successful when he's on whatever medically assisted recovery medicines that he's attempting to use. But yeah, so the Portugal model really basically what they did was they reclassified substances and they started treating it like a healthcare crisis, and they had huge success with it. So I think it's a great model. I don't know why we're not already using it. So
I being the inherent skeptic is because people are afraid, especially in this country. People will not be able to capitalize it off of the current, such as the current system that we live in. Tina, I think possibly the best way to do this would be on a community level, get every state to figure out if they want to do it. And then once it's done state by state, just federally do it. Kind of how they've been doing with cannabis currently. It's kind of the process that I would imagine this could happen. Rhode Island puts a bill in front of the people and they say, are you for or against? And then if Rhode Island's for it, go to town. And then you go state by state. Is that a feasible methodology to actually seeing this happen? Is it possible to even do it the whole country?
If we have enough people that sit down and actually listen, to people like Laurie and listen to this whole thing, yes. I think that
Mhm.
I think that it would help quite a bit.
Mhm. Because my biggest fear would turn into people making uninformed decisions. And sure, we might end up getting what we want, but it could end up a bunch of people up in arms like, I didn't know it was going to look like this. And then it catching a lot of accidental flack on the back end.
On
Because
what specific are you talking about?
I'm saying if, say, hypothetically, Rhode Island passes it and
Yep.
people vote for it, and maybe it doesn't look like what they expected it to look like.
Yes.
Even people who might be pro for it. I'm going super hypothetical
Are you
here,
talking
but
about like to declassify?
a Portugal
or
flip,
declassify?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just being,
I think Rhode Island. I think if Rhode Island does it and it looks good, I think others will definitely follow. Just like you said, just like the cannabis thing. I think once it's done in one spot, they'll definitely be doing it other places.
Yeah. So, and I also,
But does that put a lot of pressure on the first state that does it?
oh yeah, of course it does.
Yeah, but Rhode Island loves to be the first state to do things. It really does.
So, and let me also kind of tap in here a little bit on this, because
Please.
The thing about Rhode Island is they're not. I haven't seen them make a move with the opioid epidemic or substance use disorder without a lot of evidence and background and education supporting it. So one of the really good things about New England in general, and that would be Massachusetts and Rhode Island, New Hampshire, there are really a lot of colleges, a lot of schools. It's a very, like, Providence is very much a school-based city.
Yeah.
Like Boston is, right? And so I know the major players that are working on this, and I feel I have a tremendous amount of confidence in them, in what they're doing. They're not going in this lightly, and I also believe strongly and wholeheartedly that they care a tremendous amount, and they want to. They're out there right now looking at all different models, and they're trying to bring back the best pieces from all of them and piece it together. So they're not just going to throw something shabby up. That's not how this group works.
And the doctor from Portugal went before them when when we saw him. He went before before what? The whole state, right?
Yeah,
state representatives.
Yep. So actually,
they know what all about it.
Yeah. So actually, Dr. Jody Rich, he's out of Brown University. He's an epidemiologist in the state. He also heads up COBRE, this group in Rhode Island, and he flew he's friends with Dr. Galao, who is one of the major architects of the Portugal model, and he flew him out here to Rhode Island, and the Family Task Force, another group, the Super PAC, and Dr. Rich brought him up to the State House. He went around and he lectured throughout the state, but then they also brought him up to the State House. He was introduced on the legislative floor. The state senators and legislators were able to talk to him. Police and law enforcement, they were able to discuss things with him. It was a great visit, an absolute great visit. Tina and I both got to meet him and ask him questions. So they're not, I hear what you're saying when you're talking about it can go off the rails, right? When
so can everything. I'm being, nervous Nelly.
Yeah. But I hear what you're saying, because it seems like everything goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. When money's involved, man, it's a struggle, right?
No, that's
But
good. You said it seems like they're making a very informed decision, and I like how you said they're kind of picking different pieces from different models, because I can guarantee you, if copied what Portugal did, it's not going to work, and then we're going to get blamed for it, and then they'll never try anything like it for another 20 years.
Right. But no, they're really everything is very real. The one thing I can tell you too, so I'm also on the governor's prevention overdose task force, and everything that we're told, so it's a group of a huge amount of organizations throughout the state. Everything we're told has to be evidence-based. Everything. They want everything to be data-driven, evidence-based. Yeah. It's I'm telling you, I feel privileged to be able to support and participate in the state of Rhode Island and what they're doing. It is very, very informed and educated, and very careful about how they're orchestrating everything. So,
no, that's good. I mean, we at the McShin Foundation are also evidence-based, which is really good, and it's important because when it comes to a lot of recovery stuff, it is a emotional disease. So when it comes to helping people, we use our emotions, but I can't convince you that our methodologies work if there isn't any scientific analytical
behind it,
basis to it. Exactly. Has that also been your experience, Tina? I mean, I assume there are certain things that brought you to rest and craft. Is that evidence concrete? You seem like a very concrete person a little bit.
They had the same thoughts as them anyway. But then when you look at the data, and you can't deny that it helps, that's what really, really put me over, because I've never been like, attached myself to any program at all. Mm-hmm. This is the first time that I have, because in the past, I didn't find one really that I could truly say, I believe that is going to help people. You know, I think that this helps everybody that goes into it. I think, it's not going to be magic, but they're going to come out feeling a little bit better, with a little bit more hope, towards the family, and go home and maybe try these things. And, that's what they need to do. There needs to be less arguing within the household, within the family, or, just like anybody. If there's arguing, you're not going to get over it. You're not going to get through your recovery if you're fighting constantly day in and day out.
No, that's totally valid. And what I hear, as we were talking about earlier, is not only will you feel better and it'll help you out, but you'll actually learn something too. And instead of just like, I think those are kind of the two, right. Left brain, right brain, two pieces to the major puzzle. Laurie, Debbie had a question for you. Is Tom Codera on board with this thinking?
Yeah, Tom Codera. I'm not exactly sure what she means. Is Tom Codera on board with this thinking? I'm going to assume that she's talking about the Portugal model. That one I'm not so sure about. I haven't talked to him about this in particular. I know that he is really in the forefront of having a wonderful, robust recovery community in Rhode Island. But I'm not sure. I haven't really discussed that with him with the Portugal model. He also he's also now in working for SAMHSA in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know SAMHSA is a massive organization that continuously does great work throughout the nation. So I don't know anything about them, but if you got SAMHSA attached to your name, I generally trust that your heart is in the right place a lot of times.
Well, Tom Codera is really so he was Governor Gina Raimondo's right-hand man for a couple of years. He is on the task force. He still attends task force meetings, but now he's like the New England coordinator for SAMHSA, something like that. He's a big wig in SAMHSA. I know that, and he's a great guy. He is an advocate for people with substance use disorder. He is an advocate for families. His work is really in the forefront of everything. He's out there advocating for everybody.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. So before we kind of come to a close, I would like if Tina, if you could explain how people might be able to get involved in REST. Can they do this via Zoom throughout the nation? Like, say, my mom who lives in Virginia, who watches this, who probably feels very comfortable hearing her native accent coming out from New England. If she, say, hypothetically wanted to do any of this, or any loved one, I'm just using her as an example. She's a great mother. Do you have like Zoom meetings or any way that someone could participate in this?
She's the craft facilitator, and she holds the meetings 3 days a week, Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday. What are the hours, Laurie?
So Monday is 7 to 8:30. Tuesday is 6:30 to 8, and then Wednesdays is 6 to 7:30. And remember, this is all Eastern time.
Yes, and yeah, so she holds the meetings all week long.
And if anybody ever wants to, if you want to, you can go to the website, and my email address. You can email me, and I can send you the links. But also, my email address, if you want it, it's lcmac11@comcast.net, and you just email me. I'll send you the links, and you can join us in a meeting if you'd like.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, my mom just said, "There you go, already joined." I love it. You rule, Mom. So so any sort of final thoughts, Tina, before we kind of wrap up here? I really appreciate the work that y'all do. It sounds like something that I would love to see way more of, if you want my opinion. But any closing remarks or final thoughts?
No, I just thank you so much for giving us, the opportunity to be able to, let everybody know about it, because it's a lot different. You gave us a whole hour to be able to let people know, and that's gold right there, So thank you very much.
No, absolutely. I'm happy to. I learned a lot too, and I haven't even signed up to the class or anything. Laurie, any final thoughts, closing remarks?
No, I want to say thank you for having us on here. This was fun. I really enjoyed it.
I know. I was nervous. I said, "Oh my God, I can't do this."
Y'all are naturals, absolute naturals. I'd love to get you on again at some point. I mean, it's really refreshing. So yeah, thank you very much, ladies.
And I just want to let all the families out there know there are things you can do. There is hope. And as I was reading through some of the comments, it's all about all pathways to recovery.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Multiple pathways. I'm totally on board there. Yeah. So just to close out, if you have a loved one that is suffering from substance use disorder and would like to educate yourself more on it, please visit resthelps.org. That's RESTHELPS.org. Big shout out to our producer, Todd. He's always crushing it, even though he's been busy as a dog lately. Laurie and Tina, it's been an absolute delight. I'd love to have you on and talking about something even bigger. I had a blast. It's been wonderful speaking with you, ladies, and I really appreciate the work that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, this has been Getting the Herd After Hours. Y'all have a great rest of your night, and we will talk to you later. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
The McShin Foundation is Virginia's leading nonprofit full-service RCO committed to serving individuals and families in their fight with substance use disorder. Since 2004, we have been providing the tools for recovering individuals to create positive lifestyles. We aim to spread the word of recovery and educate families, communities, and government regarding substance use disorder, as well as reduce the stigma attached to it. If you or a loved one are struggling, please connect with us by calling 804-249-1845 or by visiting our website at www.mcshin.org.
Tired of waiting, lost while I'm sitting at home. Dream of a new destination, lust for something unknown. Oh, you better leave it alone. You know, I'd rather get up and go. How long can I lie around waiting for it? Sometimes you gotta walk out the door. No limits, no ceiling, no crown. No pressure gonna hold me down. No stop until I break every rule. No limits to what I can